Elevator chime. Doors open. Apex's lobby spills out in glass and bright screens. Vertex's press clip runs on mute. Captions crawl my name. I step forward, and a courier plants an envelope in my chest. Paper edge bites through my shirt. Subpoena. I move to the executive door to steady my hands. Tap the key card. Red blink. Buzz. Again. Red. Heads tilt. Security looks up. The TVs keep looping the fire footage without sound. I can hear it anyway. I can smell wet wiring that isn't here. I slit the envelope with my thumbnail. On top is a glossy still from the night it went wrong. Char on the column. Smoke slanting under ceiling lights. A clipboard in the foreground. My Apex pen sits on it, circled in red, stamped Exhibit A. That pen built my numbers. Now it names me. If you want to see how a key card, a stamp, and one lie stacked on another pull a career out by the roots, stay with me. Hit subscribe and don't blink. I steady the paper against the elevator rail and breathe through my nose. Coffee rides up my throat. Burnt, thin, corporate. The lid trembles against my thumbnail, a plastic metronome I can't quite. I'm Marcus Brennan, 48, commercial real estate broker at Apex Realty, 15 years of clean shoes and dirty floors. I catalog the lobby like a site visit. 4 exits, 2 security posts, 1 camera blind by the fern, a janitor's closet with a door that never latches. The key card reader at the executive door gives a dull beep when someone else swipes in. 1, then 2, then 3 green lights for not me. Fees, fines, bail. I do the math the way I used to price out a cosmetic repair. $2 million exposure, plus counsel, plus the licensing board's appetite to make an example of you. My watch hand ticks hard enough to feel it in the bone. The marble under my shoes is cold. The building's chill moves up through the sole, into the knee, and sets in the back. Old deal posture, ready to lean, prepared to leave. The coffee lid taps again. If the room is colder than I remember, what else have I miscounted? I crouch to retie a lace I don't need to retie and see it. A faint, branching stain where the marble meets the wall. A watermark like a vein trying to surface. I've seen that shape in basements, in service corridors, under stairs. LIC's slab seam, ghosted here like a warning label. I press the subpoena flat in my palm. The paper isn't the heavy kind our attorneys use. It's copier stock, a little tooth to it, edges fuzzed. Not mine, not my rules. Back pocket, left side. Habit from years of walking inspections with a folded plan set. I map the hallway to the garage in my head. Out past the elevators, down 2, right at the vending machines, left at the green exit sign. Nobody notices. I picture the stairwell door, push bar with a sluggish return, easy to catch with a shoe if I need air. The key card reader beside me pips again for someone else, and I feel the phantom weight of keys I don't carry anymore. Jangling metal, a master to everything. Power disguised as convenience. I squeeze the coffee until the lid creaks. If I can still list every exit without looking, why does the door I need keep blinking red? Apex's scent is a blend I used to love. Lemon cleaner, printer ozone, cold glass, something metallic from the turnstiles. It's undercut now by a trace I can't shake. Wet wiring, the phantom smell of that launch night at Vertex. The TVs keep looping my name under footage I can't unsee, and even on mute, I hear the room from that party. Clinking of glasses, mics popping, then the small animal sound people make when the heat turns on the wrong thing. I rub my thumb over the tiny ridge on my pen's clip, the same model in the glossy still, the one circled in red. Inside my head, I split the $240,000 commission into months of mortgage, school payments, and the weak spot in the kitchen ceiling I never fixed, because I could always stand in a different room. I estimate how fast the licensing board can pull a card. 30 pages, 3 signatures, 1 stamp that turns a name into a cautionary tale. My pulse hits the place behind my eye where hangovers used to live. If I train myself to ignore the slow drip, am I built to stand in the flood? I set the coffee on the floor so I can stop hearing it shake. Knees pop, older than the swagger I sell. The marble magnifies every scrape of a shoe. Every step toward the executive door sounds like someone else walking my fate in. I flatten my palm to the glass and feel the climate on the other side. A few degrees warmer, like a living room I'm not invited into. Two assistants whisper near the reception, glancing without looking. I have taught whole teams how to look without looking. This is what the lesson feels like in reverse. I try to slow time into tasks. Call Mark, rehearse a clean line about vendor fault, line up a private investigator to muddy the inspector's past, text my divorce attorney to get ahead of the offshore questions. Then I picture Jenna's recorder on the diner Formica, snug in her palm like a stone. You taught me where to look. The line rewinds and replays. If I were the teacher, why am I the only one surprised by the test? The keycard reader waits like a small, patient animal. I raise the badge to it anyway, knowing what it will say. The beep is duller when you expect it. Rejection without ceremony. The tiniest flicker in the corner of my eye. Security camera iris adjusting. I stand straight, shoulders back, chin even. The posture that got me through hundreds of closing rooms. My fingers hover over the badge one more time, not to try, to feel a life's reflex humming in the skin. I pick up the coffee. It tastes worse when it's colder. I pivot toward the stairwell because even now, even with the badge turned into a decorative square of plastic, I move like a man who owns corridors. My shoes click. 1, 2, 3, and I mark the count for the turn. In the reflection of the glass, I catch myself. Hair sharp, suit still immaculate, a man who can pass for fine. The reflection blinks when I do. If the mirror still shows me winning, what does it say about the rooms I can't enter anymore? The TVs aren't silent anymore. Someone at reception reaches for the remote, and the lobby fills with the voice I've only read in quotes. Vertex's CEO stands at a podium in a navy suit that fits like a verdict. He doesn't raise his tone. He doesn't need to. He names the 4 employees, one by one, the injuries like ledger lines. A forearm graft, a punctured lung, hands wrapped so thick a keyboard might as well be a brick. The camera cuts to a row of folding chairs, parents, partners, an empty seat with a coat folded over it. I feel the air getting thinner even as the vents push harder. He lays the timeline on the table the way I used to lay out comps. Offer date, move-in ready confirmation, launch night head count, 9:14 p.m. alarm. Over his shoulder, a slide clicks to the inspection report Jenna filed in Discovery. My old language stares back at me in a font I once called professional without personality. I use that phrase out loud. He reads the same line I sold 10, 20 buyers. Minor cosmetic moisture visible, no structural concern. The word cosmetic lands like a slap because I chose it precisely for this. Soft, dismissible, a cushion between truth and commission. Then he plays the clip, not the fire. My voice. The audio is grainy, sure, but the words are clean. They're tech kids from California. They won't know what to look for in a New York building. The room doesn't gasp. It goes quiet in a way that feels surgical. In the lower third, the caption fades in. Pattern of deceit, 2012 to 2025, and under it, my name. My phone vibrates in my pocket like it wants out of my life. I don't touch it. He keeps going. He names the inspector I kept on speed dial and zooms in on the signature blocks I asked to tidy. The cursor circles the loop on the G that never quite touches down, our little fingerprint. An overlay shows the nights those reports were filed against keycard logs that put me inside buildings after hours. The footage doesn't accuse. It just lines things up until there's no space left to stand. I taste metal at the back of my throat. If your own sentence sounds worse in someone else's mouth, what did you think it was when you said it? He brings up a cutaway of the building, the very seam I told a man to omit. The CAD layers peel back to the raw slab, then to a thermal image from 6 months ago with a heat bloom exactly where the water traveled. He doesn't add color or anger. He lists code numbers like addresses, 3307.6, 604.1, 609.2, stairwell pressurization, wiring clearance, standpipe valves. A scroll at the right shows violation notices generated, not disclosed. Everyone has a stamp as red as a cut. Another clip rolls. Launch night. Music. Applause. Somebody yelling, Let's go, Vertex! Then the flicker that isn't part of the show. The camera shakes as people turn, a banner sags. A ceiling tile falls in the corner of the frame with the soft, wrong sound of soaked cardboard giving up. The mic picks up a wordless exhale from 100 throats. My stomach answers with the empty cold of an elevator shaft. He doesn't call me a monster. He doesn't ask the board to ruin me. He only says, "We were told the truth in a suit." He looks off camera to someone, a lawyer probably, and nods once. The slide changes to my smiling headshot from an Apex Award night. The glass plaque in my hand angled just enough to catch the flash. The caption swaps to recurring concealment for fee capture. It is both boring and devastating. Down the hall, security murmurs to each other with the low patience of men who already know how this ends. I raise the coffee and realize I've been holding the cup so tight the lid has a hairline split. A drop leaks onto my wrist, tracks along the vein, and vanishes at the cuff. The stain is nothing I know about stains. The point isn't whether you can see them today, it's what they carry forward. When a case doesn't need adjectives to cut you open, what do you have left to argue? The CEO closes with numbers that will live longer than this clip. The claim amount, the equipment loss, the hours of OT for cleanup, and the names of 2 interns who haven't typed since. He thanks the fire marshal by name and adds a line that cages me better than any insult. "We will not blame the flames for what the paperwork foretold." The mics pop. Reporters shout. He steps away. The feed returns to the anchor, who says my name like he's tasted it twice and didn't like either bite. In my head, I try old tricks. Isolate the vendor, question the chain of custody, flag a clerical variance on the signatures. The words feel like dry leaves rubbed between fingers, noise and dust. I shift my weight, and the marble answers with a soft scuff I didn't mean to make. 2 more heads tip in my direction. Once upon a time, I loved that tilt. It meant gravity. It meant I was the man who made a call, and the doors opened. Now the only door is the one that blinks red. I catch my reflection in the TV's glass, my mouth a line, the envelope still peeking from my pocket like a tongue I can't control. In the glossy still from the subpoena, I saw a circle around my pen. Watching the clip with sound, I feel the circle close around me. I'm not in the center because I matter. I'm in the center because that's how targets work. If they've moved from naming harm to measuring habit, what defense isn't already on their slide? I leave the lobby before the anchor can repeat my name. The air outside is wet marble cold, the kind that eats through a suit in 2 blocks. I keep the envelope pressed flat under my palm like it's trying to rise. The Apex pen rides my other hand, clip digging the spot between thumb and index. Minor pain, honest pain. I cut east, down the steps at 51st, into the hum that belongs to everyone and no one. The subway smell meets me halfway. Iron, brake dust, a washed-out sweetness from some old spill, and that note I can't stop smelling since Vertex, wet wiring, a thin tang that says we were warned. On the mezzanine, I buy time by buying a ticket I don't need. I was one of those guys who kept a car service on speed dial. Today, I let the turnstile arm nudge my hip like a bouncer who knows the ending. Down another flight, tiles slick with a film that never fully dries. Water drips from the seam where the ceiling meets the column. It marks the stone with a dark thread the janitors can't scrub out. That's the shape I saw in LIC. That's the shape I told a man to leave off the photo set. I thumb the pen's button and let it click twice. The sound is a cheap metronome. It keeps time with the train's far-off rattle. If the city keeps writing the same stain on every surface, what makes me think my edits hold? The platform is a study in exits and eyes. A busker tests a chord and thinks better of it. A teenager in a blue hoodie scrolls past my face on a news app and doesn't look up. A transit cop laughs at something on his partner's phone, then schools his face when he sees me looking. A gust pushes grit into my cuffs. I brush it off like lint on a closing day blazer. The drip hits a tile beside my shoe and spreads a round halo, then another, then another. Clockwork without a clock. I measure the spacing like I'm measuring a slab. 4 inches from the grout line to the center, 7 from the seam to the first halo. Numbers calm me even when they're useless. The train howls indoors. I pick the middle car because it's the least committed choice, then sit where I can see the whole car in the window's reflection. I used to joke that deals are won by men who sit with their backs to the glass and don't flinch. I'm watching my own jaw now, muscle bending against itself. The car moves and the tunnel lights turn the faces into a flip book. Yawn, blink, frown, me, again. I loosen my tie like that to let more air in. If I can still read a room through glass, why didn't I read the one that mattered? Queens peels open through the window. Graffiti, brick, a slice of sky the color of old zinc. My phone trembles. Mark, call me before you do anything dumb. Then a number I don't know. Voicemail transcribed into complex type. Licensing moved up. Bring counsel, bring honesty. I let it sit. The train dips back underground. The fluorescent hum lays a straight line through the car, a tone you stop hearing until it stops. I roll the pen in my fingers and bring the clip to my lip, a habit from 1,000 conference rooms. The ink smell is faint and plasticky. I've always bought the same model by the box. In the subpoena photo, they circled it like a relic. I never thought a pen could be evidence. I thought it was just a tool that wrote what I said. A memory rises without asking. A service corridor, stale air. A man with a clipboard whose eyes kept traveling the seam even as I talked. I didn't say, omit the water. I said, keep the report dry. He understood the language I speak when I want something done without saying it. I gave him an envelope anyway, because an envelope clarifies. That night, I walked out whistling into an alley where someone had left a busted sink on its side. The drain mouth stared up, a circle inside a circle, like the one around my pen. If I only ever asked for dry, why was I surprised when everything I touched became kindling? Court Square. The car exhales into light. Commuters spill. I rise with them and feel the press of bodies that don't know me and don't care. That indifference used to be my favorite privacy. Today it's a verdict. Anonymous until you aren't. Until screens pick a name and make it a headline. On the stairs, a drop from the overhead seam hits the back of my hand. Cold, then gone. I taste the metal in the air again. The little bite of a short you can't see. I grip the pen tighter, and the clip nicks the skin. A thin red line of beads, neat as a cut with a fresh blade. I suck it clean and keep moving. The station tile gives way to daylight, to LIC's cut of wind off the river. I take the long way to the building on purpose, passing the bagel place I used to send buyers to while I checked one last number, passing the drywall shop that always loads late. At the corner, a city crew has opened the street. A worker points at a wet trench. Another shines a light. Even underground, the city insists, water will have its route. I stop, pocket the pen, take it back out. It wants to be used or thrown away and nothing in between. If the object that wrote my lies has more finality than I do, what am I still carrying it for? The diner is a chrome box with fogged glass and a neon open that hums a note I can feel in my fillings. I slide into the booth across from Jenna. Her coat is still on. The spoon in her cup makes small circles, metal on ceramic, the kind of sound you only hear when someone is deciding whether to speak. She doesn't meet my eyes. I lay the Apex pen on the Formica between us because I don't know what else to do with my hands. The pen looks smaller under the diner lights, toy-like, as if it couldn't possibly hurt a soul. If the tool looks harmless on the table, why does it feel like a blade in my palm? She reaches into her tote and places a small black recorder beside the pen. No flourish, no drama. It's the kind you buy at a pharmacy when you're tired of misremembering things. She angles it toward me as if we're sharing a salt shaker. You taught me where to look, she says, eyes still on the coffee. The sentence is clean without spikes. It lands harder than shouting would. She touches the record button but doesn't press it. You also taught me what to keep. A drop slides down the outside of her glass and makes a little comet on the napkin, tail and all. I try to route the moment into a process, clarify what she has, question scope, label risk. Jenna, I say, and my voice comes out softer than I meant. You've been with me 4 years. She nods like she's counting each. You wanted me to be precise, she says. So I was. She pulls a folded paper from her pocket. Dates, times, file names, the kind of tidy columns I used to praise. Midway down the list, a line I remember too well. Vertex, alike. Cosmetic moisture. Language onboarding. The ink on that entry is paler, as if it had run out, and she refused to start a new one for my sake. If I taught precision to protect myself, how did I not see who it was protecting instead? The waitress, all bangles and kindness, tops off our mugs. The steam curls like a ribbon and disappears across Jenna's cheek. Why now, I ask. Why them? She takes her time with the cream, two tiny tubs, both neatly peeled back. After the fire, she says, their counsel called. I said I didn't know anything. I hung up. Then I watched the night footage without sound. People don't make those shapes unless they're afraid. She looks at me now, not angry, not asking permission. You've always said to read a room by the edges first, she says. So I read the edges. She taps the recorder. Then I called back. The booth vinyl squeaks when I shift. Above the grill, a vent rattles, a penny trapped in its slats. I picture the service corridor, the clipboard man, and the envelope I used as emphasis. Jenna lays a second sheet on the table, a transcription header from a law office I know by reputation, clean serif, date stamped the week after launch night. You were careful, Marcus, she says, but you talk in patterns. I learned the patterns. She slides one earbud across, keeps the other. She hits play. My voice arrives too close, as if I'm sitting beside myself. Keep the report dry. Another clip. He's detail-oriented. Get him tired. Another. Don't show them the seam if you can smell it. I remember the room, the angle of the blinds, the way I stood so my face wouldn't be in frame. I knew enough to stand aside. I didn't know how to shut up. If I were always the one setting the angle, why did I leave my mouth where anyone could find it? She stops the audio with a thumb that doesn't shake. I didn't do this to punish you, she says. That night after the sirens, I heard someone on the sidewalk say, we trusted the paperwork. I've been doing the paperwork. Her eyes land on the pen, then on my hands, then back to the recorder. You made me good at this, she says. You also made me see it. The sentences aren't unkind. That's the cruelty of them. The waitress sets down toast I didn't order and smiles, as if she hadn't even seen us. A thread of grape jelly glows under the fluorescent light, like a bruise made of sugar. I reach reflexively to reclaim the pen. My fingers stop halfway. The object is the tether and the knife. She notices. They'll call you this afternoon, she says. Licensing moved their calendar. I nod because my body knows how to nod in meetings. You gave it to them already? I ask. She doesn't blink. The day after, she says, I didn't want to be asked who I'm loyal to. She finally meets my eyes. There's steadiness there. I used to borrow for client calls. You told me never to put my name on something I wouldn't read out loud, she says. I couldn't read those out loud. She takes a sip. The spoon rests quietly now, purpose concluded. The neon buzzes louder, or my head does. Outside, a bus kneels and exhales, and the diner door's bell answers with a hopeful jingle that doesn't fit any of this. I think of Mark's text. I think of the warehouse seam that shows up wherever I look, even on clean marble. I think of the key card that said no without raising its voice. Words line up in my mouth. Threats, bargains, cheap apologies. But none of them can stand on their own legs. I swallow them and taste the bitterness of old coffee and new air. Thank you for meeting me, I say instead, and hear how small it sounds. She nods like we've finished dividing a bill. Jenna lifts the recorder, unplugs the earbud, and palms the device with a familiarity that tells me it lived in that hand long before today. They'll build their case without me now, she says, but I thought you should see the knife before you feel it. She tucks the recorder away, gathers the paper, and leaves the toast as a peace offering I don't deserve. The bell over the door rings her exit into the cold. I'm alone with the pen and two coffees, the one we shared and the one I don't want. I pick up the pen, press the clip to the edge of the table, and let it snap, on, off, until the waitress looks over and I stop. The metal tastes faint on my tongue where I've pressed it, a ghost of blood and nickel. The recorder's absence on the formica leaves an outline my eye can't stop tracing. My reflection in the sugar dispenser is bent, smaller, honest. I slide the pen into my inside pocket and feel how light it is. Lighter than the sound of my voice on her tape. Lighter than the names the CEO read out loud. I press my palm flat to the cool table and count to 10, like a man steadying a ladder. Then I stand. If I've finally heard myself the way they did, what can I possibly say next that isn't evidence too? The bay door groans as I slip inside. Cold air with a bite of ash. The warehouse is a cathedral emptied of faith. Concrete nave, scorched pillars, light knifing through a cracked pane high on the south wall. Char marks climb one column like black handprints reaching for a ceiling that didn't help. The floor at my feet is a film of soot over gray dust. My shoe prints write a path that wasn't here before I came. I walk the perimeter the way I've walked new inventory for years. Count the bays, sight the drains, note the cameras, find the seams. The water seam is still visible along the east wall, a faint river of darker concrete tracking to a hairline crack in the slab. I crouch, touch it, cold, clean to the eye, wrong to the finger. I rise and line up the speech I'll give at the hearing. Vendor failure first, then a sober nod at missed red flags, a contrite sentence about trusting a contractor whose references looked solid on paper. I'll bundle the bribe into a rogue inspector narrative, isolated, unfortunate, already terminated. The trick is cadence. Short lines, measured pauses, hands open at the right beats, remorse without admitting the word that kills. A loose notice flutters near the loading dock, caught under a bent pallet strap. I tug it free. The red stamp bleeds through the page, violation, like a wound that wants the air. I fold the paper once or twice and slide it into my inside pocket, where the Apex pen lives. Hiding a stain has a feel. The chest tightens, the shoulders square, the eyes go still. I know the posture. I built it. I pace to the column with the worst scorch. Up close, the black isn't uniform. There are finger trails where heat licked and ran. I make a mental list for testimony, emphasize the tenant's added load on the circuit, mention the rental generator for launch night, and say I warned the GC about occupancy overrun. None of that is untrue. None of it is the point. My thumb finds the pen clip and snaps it once. The sound is small and decisive. I imagine setting the pen on the table at the hearing, placing it gently on a legal pad so the room sees poise, not panic. I walk the catwalk stairs. Each step gives a little, old metal saying it was asked to carry more than it should. From the catwalk, the floor below looks like a crime scene after someone swept. Worse, the absence where proof should be. The char at the column resembles a palm print. I could make a speech about that. How fire leaves stories we misread. I hear the vertex clip again in my head and shut it off. Rehearsal, not replay. At the mezzanine office, a pane of safety glass spiderwebs from heat stress. On the sill, under a scatter of dust, is another notice, half stuck to dried water. I peel it up. Same stamp, exact code numbers, 33076, 604, 1, 609.2. Ink bled just enough to smudge, but not enough to hide. Someone tried to wipe it. The paper tells of the attempt. I slide this one into my pocket too. Paper rasping against paper, a quiet file of guilt. I stand in the center of the floor and claim the room out loud in my head. This is mine to explain. This is mine to fix. This is mine to survive. The words land and don't echo. The space is too ample to be sure about at this point. Still, I set my shoulders square to the bay door, as if a jury would enter through it. Breathe in through the nose, out through the teeth. I hold my hands at my sides, not in fists, not open. Neutral, a pose that says I am not rattled by rooms like this, even when the room knows better. A drip lands somewhere I can't see and counts off the distance. 1, 2, 3. My timing locks to it. Vendor failure, rogue inspector, excess load. I line them up. I can feel the outline hardening, the old armor knitting itself from sentences and rhythm. I picture the licensing board table, the thin microphones that punish breath, the clock that doesn't stop when your story does. The pen is warm against my ribs. If I can still arrange a room with my voice, what am I really arranging? Truth or another temporary shelter that will not hold? I clear a corner of a metal desk in the mezzanine office and pull the banker's box that still carries my handwriting on the spine. Dust lifts, hangs, then settles on my cuffs like a gentle verdict. Inside, inspection packets, email printouts, bid sheets, copies of checks that pass through hands that now avoid mine. I line the files in a neat row, clinical, columns before conscience. The inspector's signature repeats across a decade of buildings. Same angle, same slant, same cheerful loop on the G. But up close, the loop wobbles on certain months, steady on others. I lay 3 reports edge to edge. In January, the crossbar on the T lands short. In April, it kisses the stem. In July, the lift of the last letter drops a hair. I reach for my Apex pen to mark the differences. The tip scratches a triangle next to each variance. That sound is familiar. I know it from nights when I cleaned a scan so a client wouldn't worry. The scratch goes through me like a file on a nerve. I stop moving. I listen to ink dry. Across the sheet, the notes I wrote years ago glow with the confidence of a younger throat. Cosmetic moisture. No structural concern. Stairwell pressure balanced per last test. Standpipe valves confirmed. My pen tip hovers over each claim, as if the point could feel heat. I picture the corridor where I told a man to keep it dry. I picture the alley where I whistled. Those scenes land on the desk like exhibits I did not choose to bring. If the paper remembers more accurately than I do, what else did I decide never happened? My phone buzzes face down. I flip it. Divorce counsel. A preview line only a lawyer could write. Production received. Spreadsheets show offshore transfers aligned to contractor payments. Dates match inspection nights. I open it. The figures list themselves in thin gray rows, calm as rainfall. Wire out on Monday, envelope on Wednesday, report uploaded by dawn. I scroll. The pattern does not blink. Jenna flagged the accounts in a quiet email weeks ago. Now it lives in discovery with my name at the bottom. My throat tightens in that precise spot where anger and recognition are the same. I pull another folder. Crescent Foods, Dockside, 2019. Same inspector, same loop. A photo of a slab seam with a polite caption, historic staining. My handwriting across the margin, lose the angle. Reseat language. Below it, a sticky note in Jenna's block letters. Revised, uploaded. The pen in my hand writes by itself. I jot loop variance, G, next to the signature. The motion matches the old edits. The scratch is the same pitch as the one that turned lies into clarity. The pen is a metronome counting out my habits. A memory rises that has taste and weight. Hotel room light. Laptop open. I rewrote a paragraph while a wire cleared. My wife texted from a different coast about a school form. I told her the Wi-Fi was unstable. I sent money out of sight because I liked the quiet that followed. The spreadsheet on my phone places that night on the same line as a bribe and an upload. It looks less like chance and more like choreography. If my calendar can sing harmony with my crimes, what honest song do I have left to hum? I gather the reports into stacks. Variance here. Perfect loops there. The perfect ones now feel worse. They are the days when the signature was careful because someone stood over his shoulder. Maybe me. Maybe they need to impress me. I was generous when work matched my tempo. I was impatient when it did not. I called the leadership in the rooms that cheered speed. On the desk, the red stamped notice I pocketed downstairs slides free and opens on its own. The code numbers stare up. 3307.6, 604.1, 609.2. They were never angry. They were waiting for someone to read them. I test one last report. The pen draws a square around a date. The scratch lifts a fleck of fiber from the page. That tiny tear feels like something leaving my chest. Resolve arrives without a speech. No hero pose. Just the knowledge that a story I wrote is now writing me back, line by line, with better penmanship. I cap the pen. I lay it on top of the stack like a nameplate. I take a photo of the 3 signatures that prove the wobble, then another of the spreadsheet on my phone that ties the money to the nights. I thought my defense would be cadence and calm. The ledger suggests silence, and a straight answer might cut deeper. I hate that it might be right. If the only way out of this room is through the record I forged, am I ready to let it speak without me? My phone rings before I leave the mezzanine office. Unknown number. I answer because every number owns me now. Mr. Brennan, a woman says. Crisp, no wasted breath. Licensing has advanced your hearing to this afternoon at 3:15. Bring counsel. Bring your card. She doesn't mean the plastic badge. She means the one with my name and the right to sell. We'll need it on the table. The line clicks dead. No space for questions. I check the time. The minutes feel shorter than they used to. I text Mark, then call. He picks up on the first ring, like he's already holding the phone. HR pulled your access, he says. No hello. Email, deals, CRM, cloud. Badges on a temporary block. I stare at the pocket where my key card rides and imagine the little red light that will greet me again. Pending outcome, he adds, and that phrase has the chill of a walk-in freezer. He exhales. I told them to wait. They didn't. He lowers his voice. Don't come through the front. We'll talk after the board. The call ends on a hush. I used to leave for clients I planned to save. I slide the phone away and feel the pen against my ribs like a hot coin that somehow stayed warm in a cold room. If every door can be closed from a desk, I don't see what the plan is when the hallway runs out. I take the catwalk stairs fast. The column's char brushes my shoulder and leaves a mark I can't see. At the bay door, a city inspector I know by face walks in with two men in coveralls. He won't make eye contact. I nod anyway because reflex is stronger than shame. Outside, the light is harsher, as if the sun wants to bleach the site clean. I cross the lot and cut toward the street. The sidewalk gives me strangers and the relief of not being looked at. The LIC wind hits the open collar and burns on the way in. By the time I reach the elevator in Marcus Garvey Plaza, my phone is full of system emails. Password reset. Session ended. Device removed. A calendar event I didn't create sits on the screen like a dare. Emergency hearing. 3:15, 123, William. My name is in the subject line twice. The elevator doors open. Inside, a man in a dark coat I don't know watches the numbers without interest. When we reach the lobby, he steps out and waits beside the turnstiles. He doesn't show a badge. He doesn't need to. Mr. Brennan? He says, neutral tone. I confirm with my eyes because my mouth feels unreliable. He tilts his head toward the exit and takes a half step ahead, as if this is a meeting we scheduled. Outside, he turns so the glass catches a slice of his profile, and the lobby lights put a shine on his tie. I'm with Vertex, he says. Not legal. He says it the way you would say, not food about a pill. My boss asked me to deliver something simple. Try us in the room. He lets it hang. He means it both ways. Try to fight. Try to be clean. Either path ends where they want it. He takes out a phone, checks a message that probably isn't a message at all, and looks back up. 3:15, he says. We'll see you. He walks away with a pace that tells me this wasn't his only stop today. If the other side is calm enough to send a messenger without anger, what does that say about the strength of their hand? I move toward the curb to catch a car, then remember the new math. Card on file, retainer wired, cash flow pinched by two phones that now serve other masters. I flag a yellow and climb in. The driver checks the mirror and knows my face from somewhere, then decides to pretend he doesn't. Downtown, I say. William Street. The meter starts its quiet climb. I keep my hands visible on my knees like a man trying to convince his own body he's steady. Traffic slides to a slow grind that feels personal even when it isn't. I open my email to look for gaps. There are none. Deals I've been shepherding for months now list other names as leads. Templates I built to sound like me reply in a voice I can't use. An automated message from HR pings in the banner and throws a sentence like a small stone. Until the board's determination, refrain from contacting clients. I picture myself on mute in my own life. We pass under a low bridge where water beads along the concrete lip. A drop lets go and hits the windshield. The driver flicks the wipers once, then again. The smear leaves a curved line that looks like the top of a circle drawn by a tired hand. My phone buzzes one more time. A number tagged private. I answer because I am built to answer. It's the investigator again, or maybe it's her colleague, and they share a tone. Reminder, the voice says. Bring any materials you believe support your record. I glance at the pocket where 2 violation notices rest, red stamps ready to bleed through fabric. The line holds the silence just long enough for me to load it with whatever I want to hear, then ends. We cross the canal, and the city opens into that specific mix of courthouse and commerce. The car stops at a light. A child on the sidewalk leans into her mother, points at the courthouse steps as if they're a playground. The steps are not for me. They're for pictures of men who want to look taller than they are. My phone screen shows 2:47. I will be on a line in 28 minutes, handing over a card I never thought I would have to surrender, while the people I called kids watch without pity and maybe without joy. I test the pen's clip against my finger until it hurts. If everything I still carry turns into an exhibit the minute I set it down, what exactly am I planning to put on that table? The hearing room is colder than the hallway. Long table, thin microphones, a clock that ticks louder than it should. A screen glows at the far end with my name already typed in the corner. I place my license card where they point. The plastic looks flimsy in the light. Across from me, a panel of 3. To my left, a court reporter whose fingers never pause. To my right, a pitcher of water that I will not touch because the glass will shake in my hand. Vertex's counsel stands. No throat clear, no warm-up. "We'll begin with sequence," he says. The screen splits into a calendar view and a folder tree. My folder names scroll past like old friends I do not want to see. He opens one labeled with the building address. The first clip is audio only. It plays over a wide shot of the warehouse taken weeks before the night. My voice fills the room in a tone I use when I want something to sound harmless. "Cut the seam," I say. "Keep it dry." The words are simple. In this room, they carry weight like a loaded pallet rolled over a weak slab. A panel member raises a hand. "Context?" Counsel nods. The screen shows the report draft. The cursor hovers over the paragraph about moisture. It backspaces 3 words. It types cosmetic. The cursor pauses. Then it adds no structural concern. The audio repeats my line. "Cut the seam." It lands without echo. The room does not need a soundtrack to understand the beat. If a sentence can change a room's temperature, what did I think I was changing when I wrote it? Next slide, keycard logs. A grid arrives with dates and times. A dot glows at 11:42 p.m. on the night a report was issued. The log lists my badge and my entry through a side door I used because it was quick. On the other half of the screen, the file timestamp for the report upload. They match like teeth in a gear. Counsel clicks again. The grid blooms with more dots. Nights I barely remember. Doors I told myself I passed through for client service. The panel watches without blinking. The reporter keeps their keys even in the rain. "Audio too," counsel says. The room hears my voice instructing an inspector to lose the angle, reseat language. I recognize the poor choice because it was chosen for plausible deniability. I crafted it to slide past blame. Here it plants both feet. The inspector's reply is low and careful. "Understood." A subtitle appears for clarity. The word sits on the screen like a door shutting. The chairwoman nods to the bailiff. He steps forward with a stack of red stamped notices. He sets them on the table in front of me, one by one. Violation, violation, violation. The stamps bleed through thin paper in a map of wounds. On top, he places my Apex pen, the same model as the one in the glossy still. I left mine in my pocket at LIC. This one is theirs. A label under the pen reads, "Recovered during site remediation." I stare at the clip. The metal shines under the fluorescent light like a wink I cannot bear. If the object is the same even when it isn't mine, what does that say about the hand that used it? They roll one more sequence. Launch night. The shaky phone video has the banner sagging, no flames, just the first flicker of wrong. Over it, counsel reads the code numbers 337.6, 604.1, and 609.2. He does not editorialize. He lets the numbers stand and enables the room to decide how loud they speak. Then the audio cuts to my email to Jenna. "They're tech kids from California," it says. "They won't know what to look for in a New York building." He does not look at me while it plays. The panel does not either. The sentence is already in the record. No stare can make it heavier. They ask if I want to respond. My throat tightens. I have an outline ready. Vendor failure. Rogue inspector. Excess load. I hear myself about to say it and stop. The chairwoman watches the decision cross my face. Her pen pauses over her pad. I look at the notices. I look at the pen. The words that once worked like lockpicks now feel like costume jewelry. They might glitter for a second. They will not open a door. A second emissary stands near the back. Not legal. The one from the lobby earlier. He keeps his hands folded. He does not speak. He stands in the doorway, a reminder that this room is not a surprise to them. A panel member asks about keycard access. Were you present on the night the draft was finalized? Yes, I say. The word lands with the clean thud of a tool put back in the drawer after years of misuse. Did you instruct changes that softened or concealed violations? A beat. Yes. The reporter's keys quicken for the first time. If the first actual word costs less than everything else I've tried, why was it the last tool I picked up? The chairwoman nods. Your license, she says and gestures to my card. It already lies there, mute and obedient. I slide it forward. The plastic whispers against wood. She places it beside the stack of notices and the pen. The three objects touch at the edges like a diagram. A small camera on the wall tilts to capture the frame. I picture how it will look in a file later. Card, paper, pen, access, record, instrument. Together they make a shape I recognize from a different life. A closing table, a stack of documents, a signature. Only this time the signature is a loop on a G that never quite lands. They set a quick recess. Counsel gathers his laptop without theatrics. The emissary in the doorway steps out so the board can leave first. I stay seated because standing feels like a claim I cannot make. The room empties. The clock keeps its heavy tick. I look at the pen. For a second I imagine palming it, a minor theft to prove I can still move pieces. Then I leave it where they put it. I listen to the hush that follows a decision, even before it is spoken aloud. If I walk out without the thing that made me, what exactly walks out of this room in my clothes? The hallway gives back my footsteps and nothing else. I pass the framed sales plaques without reading the names. At the executive door, I raise the badge out of habit. Red, single buzz, no drama, no scold, just a small machine telling the truth. I watch the light finish blinking before I lower my hand. I used to walk through here like a man who owns square footage. Now I move like a guest who has stayed too long and doesn't want to wake the house. Outside, rain needles the glass awning and turns the sidewalk into a sheet of slow silver. The lobby screens glow behind me, anchors talking with their hands, captions crawling a name I know by heart. I take the stairs down instead of the elevator because the air feels better when you earn it. At street level, the city's hum swallows the hearing room's tick. Taxi brakes sigh. A bus kneels. Steam lifts from a maintenance hole and vanishes into wet air. I stop under the awning and pull the Apex pen from my inside pocket. It's warm from my ribs. The clip has a tiny burr from years of snapping against tables. I roll it between my fingers, and the click threatens to start up on its own. I hold still until the urge passes. Across the avenue, water draws a dark vein along the curb, finds the grate, and disappears, as water always does when no one directs it. If you ignore the leak, I say, almost out loud, it becomes the room. The rain agrees in a language I finally understand. If access is just borrowed light, what remains when the bulb is no longer yours? I step out into the weather. Suit darkens one drop at a time. At the corner, the curb is chipped where trucks roll too close. It makes a small stage just high enough to matter. I set the pen there. Not ceremonious, not theatrical. Just placement. Object meets surface. Tool returns to metal, and rain. The clip catches a bead of water. It swells, tips, falls, and is replaced by another. The rhythm is patient. Nobody looks. That's right. This is not a spectacle. This is inventory. I stand a moment longer than I need to, letting the noise roll past without asking me to answer it. No speech, no bargain, no sprint. Breathe in, breathe out. I take the long way toward the corner where the coffee place keeps its lights soft. My shoes find the shallow spots by habit, skirting the worst puddles without thinking. I used to file that under skill. Today it reads as practice I didn't know I was doing for a scene like this. A boy drags a scooter through a crosswalk, raincoat hood too big, trailing a stripe of water like chalk. He tips his chin up to count the drops. His mother tugs him along and laughs, and the sound flashes past like a dry room you can't step into yet. I picture the column char, the red stamps, the stack, my license card lined up with the pen, like a shape I finally recognized only when I couldn't redraw it. Then I let the picture go. The city keeps moving. The curb keeps drinking. If quiet feels like a sentence today, can it be a practice tomorrow? I push open the cafe door. Bells jingle. Heat comes off the espresso machine in low waves. I order plain coffee because I don't deserve sweetness, and because not deserving it is as close to discipline as I can manage. The lid fits tightly. My hands are steady now. I take a seat by the window and watch the pen vanish into the rain's blur until the blur stops being about me. If you want the rest, the board's ruling, what I said when it finally mattered, the exact moment the mirror stopped lying. Stay with me. Tap subscribe, drop a comment with the part that hit you in the gut, and share this with someone who thinks shortcuts don't leave footprints. Next, I'll walk you through the first choice I didn't finesse and what it cost.